Leadership programs in my head are boring.
Yes.
I don't want to touch them.
Felt like this shouldn't be something that you feel miserable about or you feel forced to do. It should be something you look forward to. We've had people from 35 countries come through that program. And the honesty card had the creed on the one side and had their, behaviors they committed to on the other. And they got given the honesty card in like a ceremony. If you don't go for it, if you don't try, if you don't swing for the fences, you will never get it. Greatness and agony are bedfellows. They are hand in hand. Hard conversations and courage in leadership, they are muscles. They're muscles like every other muscle. They can be trained. BOMA.
What is it?
So BOMA is a leadership development organization. Our core purpose is to build a world of intentional, intelligent, courageous leaders. But largely what we do is we use sports to drive values-based leadership.
It's smart because New Zealand's so sport-orientated that it's just going to resonate with so many people, isn't it?
I mean, globally, right? Like we have this partnership with the Crusaders. We created a program called the Crusaders Leadership Program. We've had people from 35 countries come through that program.
What can you unpack, rewind, tell me about the Crusaders Leadership Program? Because I see it I see posting about it.
Yes.
I see clips everywhere all over LinkedIn.
Yes,
and I think
excellent.
that's where I first found you.
Yeah.
And that's what I associated you with.
Yeah.
But and there's always cool clips that come out of it, like how to lead and relating it to the experiences. And it's people that it's not just the Crusaders. It's people that have peaked at the highest level. Like a Wayne Smith, a Sam Whitelock. People that have led the world in rugby.
Yes.
And leadership.
Yes.
That were with the Crusaders.
Yeah. So I will just preface by saying you were just giving me a little bit of stick earlier about not knowing what's going on in terms of rugby league. I actually have no clue what's going on in rugby either. I could not be more ignorant. I grew up in New York City. Rugby is not a sport in the United States so much. Certainly wasn't back then. And so I got here and I kind of didn't really pay that much attention. And then I got involved with the Crusaders and I was like, oh my gosh, these guys are so thoughtful. They're so present. They're so deliberate about the way that they lead, about the way that they build culture. And we ended up joining forces to create this program. And like you say, it leverages 5 of their greatest legends. So you mentioned Sir Wayne Smith, Sam Whitelock, Kieran Reid, Robbie Deans, Scott Robertson. And what we did was we created a program where we worked with them in studio to capture their stories. It's like watching a Netflix show, basically. Like that's beautifully, beautifully done. We worked with award-winning filmmakers, but then we built a program around it where it's not just you doing an online course by yourself. You're engaging with people from all over the world. You're talking to them online. It's asynchronous, but time sensitive. So you've got stuff happening while you're doing the program, but you can work it around your schedule. And we've ended up creating this thing that is just, speaks to people at all levels of leadership, from professional coaches of, professional teams right through to, blue collar, white collar business leaders, folks from fire and emergency, folks from, software companies, all different kinds. But the general premise is there's nothing about rugby. It's nothing technical, tactical. It's how do you bring individuals together to accomplish something greater as a collective than what they can do on their own.
Was it as simple how did you draw the link between what you were doing and what they were doing and going, okay, let's create a leadership program?
Yeah, it was really interesting. So
just before you carry on, because leadership programs in my head are boring.
Yes.
I don't want to touch them.
Yes.
I just think it's just the lamest thing.
Yes.
But like you've managed to make it like, cool's the wrong word. You're like relatable and
something that you want to
tangible.
do.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you. That's our commercial right there. I mean, literally, I was sitting in the Air New Zealand lounge one day, and these 2 people sitting next to me I'd never met. One of them goes to the other, oh, what are you up to this week? And the other one goes, oh, I have that leadership program on Tuesday. And the first one's like, oh, can't you get out of it? And she's like, no, I have to go. And how common is that experience?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's exactly why we did what we did, was because we felt like this shouldn't be something that you feel miserable about or you feel forced to do. It should be something you look forward to. Leadership is fascinating. like culture building is fascinating, and we should be able to do this in a way that is kind of compelling and effective. So how it happened with the Crusaders was my former colleague, John O. Olding, came up to me and he's like, do you think we should maybe do some work with the Crusaders or talk to them about our leadership stuff? And I was like, yeah, sure. John O. bless. He was right into it. I wouldn't have done it. Anyway, so he made the connection, and Alex Lemon, who used to work with the Crusaders, was our kind of point man on their side. And when we first started working together, they were sending people from the organization onto our various leadership programs. So we run programs like Brené Brown's Dare to Lead or Courageous Communication, Get Great at Having Hard Conversations, like in-person programs. And when we first started this partnership, Alex Lemon came into our offices and he like presented to us the history of the Crusaders, which I had not realized was, it follows the plot line of every feel-good sports movie you've ever seen. First year of Super Rugby, bottom of the table, complete disaster, lose every game except for 2, bring Smithy in to turn things around, total focus on culture and belonging, second year come in 6th, third year win the comp, never looked back, right? And this is like a story that is actually a turnaround and then a legacy story on a global scale. Like the Crusaders might be the most successful professional team in any sport ever. 50% of championships won. Like it's just a preposterous legacy. And what is so beautiful to us is how much of that legacy is built on culture, care, leadership, like how they build the kind of environment that allows for them to play such great rugby.
Have we got time? Because I'm conscious that we're looking at a 30-minute podcast here. Have we got time to look into what it is about the Crusaders that makes them such good leaders? Like some of the things that you've learned and the things that make them so special?
Absolutely. So the program that we run has 4 modules, and those modules are culture counts, person first, player second, play to your strengths, and coach as servant leader. So first of all, just the titles of those gives you a good sense of what makes the Crusaders so special. Second of all, what I would say is everything that they do in terms of those 4 things is so deliberate. It's so intentional. They put so much effort in. And I can tell you, in my experience running culture programs, running programs on courageous leadership, one of the things that comes up over and over again is people underestimate how much attention and deliberate effort you need to put in for these things to be effective. Yeah. And so people talk about like, we're going to do a values exercise. And as soon as we say, in most organizations, we say we're going to do a values exercise, every pair of eyes rolls back in every skull. And we're all like, oh boy, here we go. I can tell you right now how it's going to turn out. We're going to do this exercise and it's going to come out with integrity, excellence, customer service, fun, one team. And we're going to put it up on the wall. And then everyone's going to forget why we did it in about 10 minutes. And that's it. And no one's going to pay any attention to it. And in my experience, what actually has to happen if you're at all serious about this kind of stuff, which lots of people aren't, and that's fine, but if you are serious about it, if you're going to do it, then you need to do it right. And the way to do it right is you do the exercise, you take it really seriously. The exercise, a big part of the exercise is, would we fire someone for not adhering to these commitments that we're making to each other?
What?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's part of the questions you ask yourself.
Why do it if that's not one of the questions? If it's not one of the questions, then they're more like, maybe suggestions if you feel like it, but doesn't really matter. Like what you're articulating when you do these exercises is what is go, no go behavior. So you articulate them, you get really serious about making sure you mean what you say, and then you build them into all of the systems, processes, infrastructure of the organization. So it needs to become part of recruitment, part of induction. You need to have like regular connections on like how you're going to invest in building it, not just catching people out when they don't adhere to it. It's part of what they get when they do their performance reviews, part of what they get performance reviewed against. And because you do all of that, then you're absolutely entitled to, and it's no surprise, to performance manage against those values. In my organization, in BOMA, we call them behavioral aspirations. Like I can and have performance manage people against the behavioral aspirations as much as I do on the tactical outcomes, because these are the commitments we're making to each other. And that's the kind of stuff the Crusaders do. They do it differently, right? So year 3 of Super Rugby, they're big on theming. They have lots of lessons on theming. They had a theme that was Henry the Fifth, Henry the Eighth, Henry the Fifth, must be Henry the Fifth. Henry the Eighth was one of 6 wives who like killed a bunch of the wives.
Yeah,
right?
I think it was the fifth. Yeah,
Henry the Fifth,
VIII
who
was the one that killed
who was Kenneth Branagh. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. For he today who sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. All things are ready if our minds be so. And that was their motto for that year. And they created an honesty card. And the honesty card had the creed on the one side and had their, behaviors they committed to on the other. And they got given the honesty card in like a ceremony, and Angus Gardner was the keeper of the card. And they would go on tour, and Smithy would wake up and he'd find cards in the morning like shoved under his door from people who felt like they hadn't lived into the behaviors. Like they took it really seriously.
So if someone hadn't lived up to the behavior, they'd get a card slipped under the door.
No, let's say like I had been given the card,
Yeah.
and then I go out one night and I'm like, oh, I behaved kind of badly last night. And then I would take my card and I would slide it under Smithy's door to be like, I don't deserve this card right now. I'm not worthy of this card right now because I have not held myself accountable to these behaviors.
That's big.
Yes.
Rugby players like, owning their stuff before they've even been asked.
I will tell you, there are many, many people from that team who carry that card. This is 1998.
98. Yep.
98. From that team who carry that card in their wallets today.
That's amazing.
It
What
is
a
amazing.
great story. What great insight.
It is amazing. Like I have learned so much from them, and I will say, I hate to say it, but it's absolutely true. I will say I did not expect it. I carried prejudices about, it's, just a bunch of blokes smashing into each other on a field. They're so smart. They're so caring. They're so deliberate about it all. It's just a real honor to be able to learn from them.
It's really cool because I'm in a really fortunate position where I get podcasts come into the studio and record the interviews, like your one, Hunger and Heart.
Hunger and Heart.
It's a beautiful podcast, and I also get the O Studio podcast come in as well, and it's Tim Bateman, who was he was a Crusader, and you hear the way that they speak and the way that they talk about whether it's whatever issue they're talking about, whatever deep dive they're talking about, and you're so right, like they're very intentional and very intelligent and understand why they're doing things.
Yes. Yeah. And, I listen to them talk and I feel like, they're sharing their experience. And oftentimes I feel like they're talking directly to me, to my shortcomings, So for example, on our program, we've got a clip of Sam Whitelock, and he's saying the hardest thing as a captain is learning when to be quiet. And I'm going, man, are you talking directly to me, Sam? Holy moly, right? So it's just a delight. Yeah.
Yeah, I think anyone that's got a podcast is, whether they're a leader or not, one of the hardest things is probably keeping quiet. So I don't think you're on your own there.
Yeah.
You started quite young as an entrepreneur, right? Like 22 years old. Like what sort of person were you to be thinking, I'm going to go down the entrepreneurial route? Because that's a scary one. Because I'm in my early 40s now. You couldn't tell, but I've started a business. I'm in my second year, and it's scary, man. Like you don't understand. Like people don't understand you get all the freedom or not freedom, flexibility. I'd say is a better word with having a business, but people don't understand the stress and the money and it's so much easier for you to go and get a salary and understand how much and when you're getting paid.
Yeah.
Versus being an entrepreneur. Why did you start so young as an entrepreneur and explain to me the thought process and who you were at that age?
Yeah. On the flexibility front, I will just say they say entrepreneurship is choosing which 80 hours a week you get to work. I actually started earlier than that. I was from the age of 6. I grew up in New York City, Manhattan, on the Upper West Side in an apartment building on the 11th floor. And at the age of 6, 7, 8 years old, I would take books from our apartment and go to and sell them on the sidewalk. It was the most awesome business model I can tell you, because I basically just stole the books. So my cost of goods was zero. And, it was just all profit, right?
Where'd you get the books from?
From our bookshelves. Like I stole my mother's books, basically.
And sold your mum's books.
My mother, I mean, I have an observation that like precocious kids are just impossible for parents, because my poor mother, she wanted to encourage me. She like admired the entrepreneurial spirit, but also I was like stealing her books. No joke. My mom she taught people how to cook. She was a natural foods, like cooking pioneer, visionary. And she had taught John Lennon and Yoko Ono. They had come to our apartment. She taught cooking classes in our apartment when I was little. And John Lennon and Yoko Ono came to our apartment, and he gave her a book that he had written. It was like a book of little like drawings or whatever. And
No, you didn't.
Guess how much? 75 cents. I sold it. Yeah. I didn't know. I was like 6. Yeah. She was like, you are so lucky he hadn't signed it. He hadn't signed it. Thank goodness. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you today. Anyway. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I can't believe my mom and I maintained any kind of relationship.
How old were you when you did that?
I mean, I would have been like 7, something like that. I had no idea what it was. But there's there's no one in my family, as far as I can see, who had a 9 to 5 like standard job.
Right.
My mom started this cooking school. My father was an actor. My extended relatives all did random different things. And so that's kind of the model that I had always growing up. So, so became an entrepreneur. Like I got a job out of uni doing trade and project finance, setting up loans for foreign corporations that wanted to purchase U.S.-made capital goods. But within about 3 years, I went into business on my own. To your point about the loneliness and the scariness, so I started at 22, but then it took another 20 years before I felt able to actually do it on my own. Up until that point, I was like, oh, I'll join forces with Andy because he wants to start a business and he knows everything and he'll have all the answers, or I'll join forces with this other person and I'll follow them. And it was Andy's idea, the whole thing. And so even though I was always an entrepreneur, there was an element of following in what I was doing. And it wasn't until my 40s that I was like, actually, I should really back myself here and kind of start my thing. And that thing of like, the courage that it takes to do that. And, in my work, we talk about the definition of courage being vulnerability, basically. And the definition of vulnerability is risk, uncertainty, emotional exposure, right? So a lot of times we don't like the word vulnerability, but when you think about courage, when the premise of courage is that you're taking a risk, you're facing some kind of uncertainty, you're opening yourself up to some kind of emotional exposure. And obviously, with entrepreneurship, there is always the risk that you fail, and that you fail publicly because everyone knows it's you. And so I just really want to connect with that comment that you made about how scary it can be and how kind of exposed you can feel when you're doing it, because when you're following someone else, like I always had for that 20 years, I always had the opportunity of going, well, it didn't work, but that's because they sucked.
Yeah.
But now I don't have that excuse anymore.
And do you know what? Like, when you work for, I've worked for companies all my life, and you always have a gripe about how the companies run.
Always.
What they shouldn't be doing this, or they should be doing something better. And when it's on you, all of a sudden, and part of that reason for doing it yourself is like, I think I can do this because I've seen how people have done it wrong. But when you're in it, you feel all of a sudden there's almost like that same person in the back of your head that was critiquing the company that you work for on your shoulder, critiquing you.
Yes.
And that voice is all of a sudden it's so much louder, and it becomes, even though it's you, it becomes what you think everyone else is thinking.
Yeah. And there's a thing there of like, if you don't go for it, if you don't try, if you don't swing for the fences, you will never get it. Right? Like you'll never have a thriving business if you don't try to have a thriving business. And there is no way to try without being open to the possibility of failing. Like greatness and agony are bedfellows. They are hand in hand. And that willingness to go, actually, I want to make that happen, and I'm willing to put myself in a position that I might fail spectacularly at it. That's the hallmark of an entrepreneur. So go you.
It makes me feel a bit sick. Like it really does. Like the idea when you when you're so exposed, it's that
Yes.
exposure that makes you feel sick, I think. Like,
Yes.
but I guess that's only because we're focusing on that right now a little bit. But like equally, you do feel a massive level of excitement of what you're trying to achieve, and if that level of excitement is greater than the level of sickness, then you're probably onto something.
Yes, that is true. And also, I find it useful to have a kind of constant reminder of like a couple of things. One is that as much as I was just saying, you're exposed to this possibility of failure, that our self-worth as individuals has nothing to do with our performance in our businesses. Like your worthiness of being loved and of being a good human and, like just being you has nothing to do with how well the business goes. Like it's useful. It's one of those things that's easy to say, harder to absorb, and useful to kind of continually come back to. And then second, there's another thing that I come back to over and over, which is a practice from the Stoics, the ancient philosophers, which is the practice of asking myself literally, not rhetorically, what's the worst that could happen? And then taking it all the way to the bitter end. So I'll go, okay, what's the worst that could happen? Well, the business fails. Okay, what would that look like? And like engaging like genuinely, curiously with the answer all the way. Okay, well, the business fails. Well, I'd be really sad. I'd have to maybe talk to some investors and, tell them I'd let to, okay, what would happen then? Well, some of them would be probably fine with it. Maybe someone would be mad at me. Okay, what would happen then? And I just go all the way to the end. And what I find is that like looking clearly at the scary thing makes it way less scary. That the monster in the closet is scary precisely because it lacks definition. And as soon as we open the closet door and turn the light on, we can go, oh, it's just a chair with a hat on it. Like it doesn't, I thought it was so terrible, right? And so that's another practice I find useful.
You mentioned Brené Brown earlier.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about her?
Sure.
And did you work with
I trained with her.
Trained with her.
Yeah. So Brené is a research professor at the University of Houston. She holds the Brené Brown Huffington Endowed Chair. She is a celebrity academic. She's written 6 or 7 global bestsellers. She gave one of the top 5 most viewed TED Talks of all time. So, 70, 80 million plus views.
She's legit.
Well, so here's the thing. So she's got a HBO show, Netflix show. But here's the thing. I went to train with her. I trained with her in 2019 to facilitate her Dare to Lead curriculum, which is her work specifically as it applies in the organizational context. And going in, I was like, we'll see how legit she is. Like the fact that someone has written books and given TED Talks they're wonderful accomplishments. I'm not trying to diminish them in any way, but I want to know, like, is the research robust? Is the data extensive? Like, are these things that actually hold up, or is this stuff that somebody just came up with in the shower, right? And I will tell you, she is so for sure 100% legit. Like the data is extensive, the research is robust, the depth that I need to know is there. I've facilitated, her curriculum for more than 4,000 people in the 7 years since I did that training, and it only gets richer and richer. It's really incredible. And so I got to train with her, and that's a 3-day program that I run called Dare to Lead, which is specifically about building the skill sets of courage in an organizational context.
Did the Crusader stuff link in with that?
It's so funny that you should ask. So when I run a Dare to Lead program, I run those programs in person. And when I run a Dare to Lead program, I will get 80% women attending. And when I run a Crusaders program, I'll get 80% men attending. And there's no daylight in what we talk about. Like we'll approach it different.
Sort of stuff.
There's zero conflict. We touch on different things. Like the Crusaders talk about theming. We don't talk about theming at all in Dare to Lead. But there's no conflict whatsoever in the approach. Can I see this whole human being? Can I care for them and empathize with them while also holding them to account and holding ourselves to the standards that we're committing to? Like all of that is exactly the same. And I don't really care. I don't care if you prefer to hear it in the Brené context or if you prefer to hear it in the Crusaders context. I care that the message lands for you in a way that's going to be useful for you.
There's a lot in leadership. There's a lot around hard conversations, having hard conversations. Do you get into that?
Yeah.
And why is it so? Like, I guess it's the element of confrontation that most of us don't like, that stops the hard conversations. But can you sort of talk me through like what you do around that, and how you can sort of unlock and make it easier to have hard conversations?
Great question. So I created a program. I created a curriculum specifically on that. It's called Courageous Communication for getting great at having hard conversations. So why are they hard? Well, because it's in the title. If they weren't hard, they wouldn't be hard. But I have a whole definition of them, right? Like any conversation where, our heart starts pounding a little bit more. There's kind of an increased like emotional reactivity. The perceived risks are higher, right? So if it's a confrontation that doesn't have any perceived risk for me, I might not struggle with it at all. But if it's a confrontation with someone who maybe holds some power over me or someone who's, opinion of me I care about a lot, then that might be a harder conversation. And it's something that is near universal as far as I can tell that people struggle with, because we all have, like, even those of us who feel really confident in them, we'll all have that one circumstance where we struggle with it. And so a couple of things about hard conversations. The first thing is that hard conversations and courage in leadership, they are muscles. They're muscles like every other muscle. They can be trained. They can be strengthened. They get stronger with repetition. They get stronger with use. They get weaker with disuse. So there's this first thing of like, what happens when you're wanting to kind of bulk up or beef up or, build your muscles? What do? You go to the gym, and the first thing you do is you get a personal trainer or someone to show you what you're supposed. How do you do this? How do you lift the weight? What's the correct form? What's the correct technique? And then the second thing you do is you practice it over and over and over again. Yeah. And so with hard conversations, the work that I do, a lot of the work that I do is here's how you do it. Here are the kinds of phrases you can use. Here are the kinds of the ways to begin those conversations. Here's how to navigate it. And so what I've done is, for example, I've articulated 5 different types of hard conversations. So one is about you. I need to talk to you about your behavior and you're being naughty. One is about me. I need to own something I'm not proud of owning. One is about this. We're business partners. The business isn't going that well. We need to talk about it. We're both hoping to avoid it, but we need to talk about it. One is I need to ask you. So I'm asking for something outside my comfort zone. It's a pay rise. I'm asking you on a date. I'm asking for the sale, sponsorship, whatever. And then the final one is I need to tell you. So I need to tell you is, hey, we've gone through all the feedback from the consultation, and I'm afraid the restructure is going forward and your role is being disestablished. And each of those conversations needs a different kind of approach, a different kind of sample language. And so I've articulated all the sample phrases you can use in those conversations, what characterizes each one of them. And then there are advanced techniques, of course, which include things like practicing empathy, embracing accountability, and my personal favorite, accepting reality, which is a lot of people go, what do you mean accept reality? What do you mean I'm not accepting reality? And I go, if you've ever found yourself saying something like, it's not fair that they just keep doing this, or why can't they just be more like da da da, or how come they don't just blah blah blah, all of those are like indicators that we're failing to accept reality. And so like getting skilled at this, there's substance to it in much the same way that, I look at a rugby player and I go, how do they know how to pass so perfectly? Because they've learned the skill and then they've practiced the skill over and over again.
Yeah, it makes sense because you probably just assume from the outside that people just know how to have those conversations, but it's because they've never maybe avoided them potentially, and
Yes.
so they've trained that muscle. How do I ask for things? Let's just look at that one.
Yes.
So because a lot of people need to ask for things.
Yes. Asking for the sale, asking
Yeah.
for the
Pay
rise.
rise.
In your case, it's not a promotion or a pay rise, but definitely asking for the sale. So with an I need to ask you kind of conversation, the first thing is to acknowledge whatever your kind of anxiety is about it. Like, oh, I feel nervous asking for, I'm asking for this, $10,000 contract or whatever. I feel nervous about this. Acknowledge that nervousness and then set it aside. Like you can literally say to yourself, like, okay, Kaila, I get that you're nervous about this. We're going to deal with that later. But right now we're going to park it over there and we're not going to engage with that emotion, right? Then the second thing is to always be considering what is the value exchange. So if I'm asking, for example, for sponsorship, then the kind of phrase that I might use is, we'd love to welcome you on board as a platinum sponsor for this amount of money, $50,000, whatever it is. Here's what we can offer you at that level. And so I'm really focusing almost less on what I'm asking for and more on what I'm giving in return. Yeah. And the thing is, anything we're asking for, presumably, unless Like my 12-year-old stepson, who is adorable, he busks. He plays the cello. And he's doing a value exchange, right? He's giving you cello. But mostly you're giving him money because he's cute, right? But I'm not so cute anymore. And so almost anything that, when we're in the kind of grown-up world that we're asking for, there's some kind of a value exchange. We're not asking people to just do us favors, right? And so always considering that value exchange and focusing on, like, I'm not asking someone to just give me money out of their pocket for nothing. I'm offering them something that presumably I believe they find valuable. And there's a price to that. But my focus with you is on what I'm offering you. And then we can look at what the two-way street looks like for it.
That makes total sense. It's like I used to work in recruitment when I was in London, and I'd get a lot of people asking me on how to ask for a pay rise. And the easiest way to ask for a pay rise is to outline the value that you're providing, whether that's the targets you've met,
yes,
whether that's like what you or the targets you've exceeded, and then tell them what you're worth. I was worth this much when I was hitting this amount of when I was making this amount of much money for you, but now I'm making so much more money, then I'm worth this much amount now. So
I love that because so I wrote an ebook on courageous communication, which is free on my website. You can download it, nz.boma.global. But the ebook, one of the sample phrases that I use for an I need to ask you conversation is, I'm really proud of the contributions I've made to the company, such as X, Y, and Z. I'd like these increased contributions to be reflected in my salary, so I'm asking for a pay rise of Q.
It just
exactly
makes sense,
what you
right?
said. Yeah.
I should write a leadership program.
You should.
Do you know what? We have run out of time. That's already a full podcast.
No challenges staying silent for me.
Where can people find more about BOMA?
Yeah, so our website in New Zealand is nz.boma.global. And you can also check out my personal website, which is kailacobin.com.
Cool website too. I had a look at it today.
Thank you.
If you could just leave the listener here with one bit of leadership advice that you think New Zealand needs, what would that be?
I will answer that question by thinking about the leadership advice that has taken me the longest to learn and that I needed the most. So I don't know if it's what New Zealand needs, but it's what I needed, which is that I never needed to be angry at people. Like if people aren't performing, there's never any call to be angry. I can just be like, okay, here's what we need to happen. I wrote an article about this. It's called, It's Not Your Employees, It's You. And the premise was, if somebody's unperforming, I've got three choices. I can close the gap, get them up to where they need to be. If they're willing, able, if I'm willing, able, we got time, resources, whatever, we can get that gap closed. We do that. If we can't do that, then maybe I accept them where they are. It might require some negotiation around job description or REM or whatever, but accept them where they are, or I move them on. And none of that needs me to be angry at the person. And it's been a real eye-opener for me because I definitely have struggled in the past with like frustration around people's behavior. And we can hold ourselves to the absolute highest standards in the world. I see this with the Crusaders, the highest standards in the world without ever getting frustrated with people.
It's easy to get frustrated, especially when it's your company and it's your
It
business
is.
and people are never, doesn't matter how good of an employee they are, they'll never care as much as you care.
So what you've just articulated so perfectly is that our frustration is not a reflection of them and their performance. It's a reflection of our own anxieties and fears and, standards we hold ourselves to and all that kind of stuff, venting at them. And it's always, those kinds of things in my mind are always understandable. Like it's always worth forgiving ourselves for all those things. They're always understandable. It's not whether we're, justified in feeling that kind of frustration. To me, the reason this lesson has been so powerful is that whether justified or not, I have yet to find it effective to demonstrate frustration at people. And so learning that lesson for me is not about whether the emotions are right or wrong. There's no such thing as an invalid emotion any more than there's such a thing as an invalid hair color. It was more that coming from that emotion made me a less effective leader. And being able to kind of process it and navigate it separately and show up with care for people made me a more effective leader.
Kaila,
Mate,
thank you very much.
so good to see you. Thanks for having me on.